let's take a look at the Mentis video here. Wait, what? Learning good game design.
Welcome to Sungran University.
Oh, what is this? Why AI slop? What is this? Why AI slop generators are a waste of your time? Wait, what?
Thank you for joining me. My name is Jarrell. I'm a human being.
Okay.
I'd like to have a serious conversation about AI, LLMs, large language models, and their place in our culture, our creative spaces, and in our workplaces. If you are going to throw a tantrum and defend generative AI as being actual art, you may let me know in the comment section and I will respond with a link to a baby shark video, so you will have something you can watch that you're...
Good argument. He got me there. Yeah, true. All right, let's check this out.
Hey, internets. Here's a fun...
I'm actually curious. Actually. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I should watch it later and like actually commentate on it? What do you guys think?
thought experiment. Let's say that aliens
That's like how every anti-AI person acts, by the way.
from outer space have invaded Earth and have fired an extra super death ray from their mothership that hits our entire planet. This ray of doom will last for 24 hours, and the aliens have telepathically communicated to all of us the knowledge that at the end of the time frame, it will kill every single human who at one point during the death ray did the Macarena while wearing a pacifier. Everyone who does not do the Macarena dance in a pacifier in this specific fashion will face absolutely no consequences whatsoever, and that's all the death ray does. Yep, that's it. It only kills people who specifically do the Macarena while wearing a pacifier. The death ray does absolutely nothing else, and it will do absolutely nothing to you so long as you don't do that dance. And the question is, do you do the dance? Now, of course, immediately, if you're a rational human being, your answer is probably, of course freaking not. Why in the hell would anyone make a fool out of themselves in such a very oddly specific way if doing so would lead to your death? It's completely ridiculous. All we all have to do is just ignore the death ray and nothing happens. But of course, there's a catch. That's only half the story. You see, the aliens then telepathically inform us with some additional knowledge, which is that if at least 50% of humanity does the Macarena while wearing a pacifier, then nobody will die. That's right, so now the stakes have been raised. This means you can potentially save the lives of everyone who does the pacifier Macarena dance by putting your own life on the line and doing it with them. So long as, again, at least half the population also does it.
Dude,
and if they don't, then everyone who did the Macarena...
This was so funny on X just to see all of the responses to it. Just all of the giga virtue signaling over it. It's actually insane.
while wearing a pacifier dies. So how about now? Do you join in the Macarena pacifier nonsense? Well, me personally, no. No, I would not. And yet, the interesting thing here
is... Wait, look at Asmon's take on it? Alright, should I look at it first? Like, in the middle of this? Before we get the explanation. Let's look at it before we get the explanation. Alright, let's see.
There are two buttons that you can press. The red button and a blue button. If more than 50% of people press the blue button, everybody lives. Everybody lives if more than half of everybody presses the blue button. But if less than 50% of people press the blue button, only the red button pressers survive. So basically, if you press the blue button, if it's under 50%, you die. And if it's over 50%, you live. And if you press the red button, if it's over 50%, you live, and it's under 50%, you also live.
Hot take, chat. Hot take. Honestly, I would press the red button every time, because if the blue button people get themselves like exterminatus, it would actually be so much better for us. I'm just being real. Think about the effects on democracy. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Man.
You weren't supposed to show it? It's extremely biased now? I don't think that... I think this is what my viewers would say. Now, I'm going to give you guys
Wait, what did Julio say? Julio says, I pressed the blue button. Okay, Julio, why would you press the blue button? Why would you press it? He's Catholic. He can't help it, dude. That's what I was thinking. Crazy. That's what I was thinking too. I assume people in my family will press the blue one, and pressing the blue one increases their chances of survival. Wait, Julio, but why wouldn't you just tell your family to press the red button? Why wouldn't you just tell them, hey, I'm about to press the red button. Press the red button with me, man. Literally said that earlier. The only people who press the blue are the assume the rest are too stupid to understand. This is literally free run. This is another free run question, dude. I'm assuming they already pressed it, of course. I don't know the exact scenario or how much time we have to think, so I might not have enough time to explain it to all of them. Well, in this scenario, right? You have to assume, because it is outside of the, how do I say it? It's against the spirit of the question to assume that there are people like children, for instance, in the blue camp. So you have to assume that all the people that are incapable of making decisions for themselves like aren't counted in this. It's like completely outside of the hypothetical. In scenario, you press red. Screw John Portuguese. So, okay, let me assume something here, Julio. So let's say that let's change the scenario slightly. And let's say that your vote no longer matters. Do you, as in that you know that most people are going to press red. Do you still press blue? Like for solidarity or like whatever the hell? I'm just confused. Or like let's assume for instance, you don't know what their answer will be. Do you still press blue because you don't know? So like would you risk yourself? Would you risk blowing yourself up not knowing what they picked? What if they all press red because smart and human and greedy? It is not greedy to protect yourself with the red button. It's not your moral responsibility because the people who are pressing the blue button are offloading their moral. They're offloading the moral weight onto you. So fuck them, in my opinion. In fact, I think the world is better off without them. I'm just being real. Because I don't want, like, I'm gonna be real. I don't think it would be a bad thing if, like, we eliminated people like that. People that are willing to, at the cost of life, to virtue signal on everybody. I think they're a net negative. They likely press blue, but at least I know them. Otherwise, red forever. And see what you have to do, Lucky Hermit. You know what this tells me? This tells me that you guys need to groom your families more. Like, honestly, like, if you think your family is gonna press the blue button, you need to fucking groom them. You need to teach them to not do that. Like, you're not, your family, if you think that they press the blue button, your family does not have their priorities straight. They don't. They don't understand their priorities, and you need to make sure that they know that as soon as possible, because there are other situations in like which this could happen that could get them killed. Like, actually, like I'm not even joking. Like this is a matter of life and death. Anyway.
Answer. I'm gonna give you my answer to this moral conundrum. Okay. This is expected. It is. I think.
Any songs? There was a new one that came out, Zora, on the TTRPG channel, but I'm releasing a new Idol song next week.
Shock a lot of people. I'd press the blue button. I would.
Why?
And do you know why? It's because we used to live in a society. We did.
If your mom pressed blue and you didn't know the total yet, would you press blue or red? If my mom pressed blue, no, I'd press red, unfortunately. It is changing the scenario, but I think I would still press red. Not really a realistic scenario because my mom would never pick blue anyway. But under the hypothetical that she would, it's like assuming my mom is a completely different person and that she's dumb, right? But like, I still have to pick red because I think there's just other things I care about now as well. I feel like it'd be a pretty big loss if I died, to be honest. If I died for no reason, I feel like it'd be a pretty big loss. So like, I don't know if it's worth it. She wouldn't pick blue anyway. She's not retarded.
We used to live in a society. We used to live in a world. You see, remember what I was saying about third worldism? One of the main core tenets of that is the idea of the self over the community, over the society. And I think that in a first world Western culture, the true, like, what button would someone like Socrates press? What button would, Plato press? What button would Aristotle press? What button would Caesar press? And I think
I'm more concerned with like what would like George Washington press. I don't actually think they would pick the blue one. I don't think like the founders would pick blue. They'd press red for sure, I think. And the reason why is because this might be kind of a hot take. Well, it's not really a hot take, to be honest. It's not. When he says something like this, when he says things like, here's my rebuttal. Asmon says we live in a society and that we should be caring more about ourselves than we shouldn't be caring more about ourselves. We should be caring more about the whole of the country. I actually disagree with that. So like, I actually do care about the country, but the country is not my first priority. My family is my first priority. Does that make sense? I have an obligation to my family first before I do to my country. And then I have an obligation to like my local group, my group of friends, my tribe. I have a obligation to them more so than like the next group. I have more, and then I have a more of an obligation to like my town than my town, and then my state, and then the country. You see what I mean? Like the whole of the country is not really like I think the individual units, like the smaller the individual unit, the more I care about it. Right. And then the thing is if I blow myself up for no reason to protect some quangos that are like willing to grandstand their morality over other people, then like I am actively hurting like our side. Does that make sense? You cannot save the country if you press blue. I totally agree.
They'd push the blue button. They would. And red, no, I disagree. I disagree. If red wins, the world collapses and the majority will die of starvation.
Zanata says, I hate this red blue button question. It's written off to offload the moral implications of these questions onto reading comprehension. There is no moral decision. No. That's not completely true because there are, Zanata, that's not completely true because there are people that do understand the question and they still choose blue. They still choose blue so they can be like, well, I would never press that because I'm a good person. That's what they do. And then again, by doing that, they offload the consequences of their morality on other people. And those people are the worst. Those people are the biggest fucking quangos, in my opinion. Because they're willing for the sake of their grandstanding to shit on everybody. They're literally the worst. This is why there's like that flow chart of like the dumbass person that's like, I just want to live, and then there's like the people in the middle that are just like total like blue button retards, right?
Well, here's the issue that I have, right? Is that I don't want to live in a world where everybody does that. Like, I think this is a bad world to live in.
It would be fun to see how the percentages change. The question if at the end everyone will know what you press when the voting is in. I don't care. I literally don't care. Like, even if that were the case, I would still press red like every single time. I would never press blue. And I would hope my family would never press blue either.
Especially when it's just for a complete...
In fact, you should teach your kids this. You should literally ask your kids this question, and you make sure they press red every time.
Like a completely arbitrary reason. So my outlook on it is that ask Gemini which button Socrates would press. Okay, fine. I'll do that. No. We'll do that. Where is it?
That's gonna be fun.
No, go ahead. And let me go. I'm just gonna copy paste this, and then I can upload the image. Actually, well, maybe I should just type it. Yeah, I'll just type it. Give me 1 second. This is kind of stupid, but I'll just type this, and that way I can copy paste it over. Okay. Imagine everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. Where the fuck is this? Okay, give me a minute. I can't even see what I'm typing. Vobe. Yeah, see, that's why I realized I was doing something wrong. And copy the text. Just don't text, you'll fuck it up. No, I'm gonna...
Now, if you're in this situation, Never Chat, I'm gonna tell you what you should have done. What he should have done is he should have hit print screen, taken a screenshot of that entire thing, and then posted that into the AI. That's what he should have done.
Copy it word for word, and then I'm gonna ask the AI snipping tool and copy paste. I don't think that's gonna work, man.
It does work. Paste
right into Gemini chat. Okay, all right. You know what? Let's see if it's that good.
It is.
MS Paint. No, it will. It probably will, right? I mean, there's no way.
You know, it'd be a fun one to do, actually. Okay, hold on. Let me print screen this. Okay. Here we go, guys. I will also open up Gemini. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you guys because it's on my personal account and stuff, but all right. You are an expert, hold on. Are an expert method actor and an expert at anime and video games. I'm going to present you a question in a screenshot. I will then tell you the name of an anime or video game character. Your job is to answer the question completely as that character. 100% immerse yourself into the goals, ideals, and ethics of that character, and then press a button and explain why you pressed it. All right, here we go. Who do we pick, guys? Who do we pick? Char! Lelouch v. Britannia? Freeran? Okay, let's see Freeran. All right. Oh my god. Freeran presses the blue button? This is gay. What the fuck? Really? Okay, I'll read it to you guys. Okay. Oh, wait. Let me see what Grok says. Let me see what Grok says, okay? I'm gonna do Grok too. Grok is typically better, but we'll compare both of them. Okay, I can see it though. I can honestly see it. All right, I can see Freeran picking blue for the reason it was saying, but okay, let's do Grok. All right, Well, Gemini is kind of woke, so like let's try Grok. Yeah, see, she would pick the blue button. And see, the reason she would pick the blue button, this makes sense. The reason why she would is because of Himmel. That's the only reason. It's because Himmel would have done it. That's why. It says, a private vote, red or blue button. If more than half of the world chooses blue, everyone lives. If not, only those who press red would survive. I press blue. Humans live such short lives in the blink of an eye. During our journey, I traveled with Himmel, Hyder, and Eisen for 10 years. Yet to me, it felt like almost nothing. I didn't understand how precious the time was until it was gone. Blah, blah, blah. They believed in something bigger than their own survival. Pressing red would guarantee I live no matter what, but it would mean I'm willing to let everyone who trusted in blue die, just so I could be safe. It feels so wrong, empty, like spending centuries collecting spells while the world burns around me. I've lived long enough to know that people can surprise you. They can be selfish, but they can also choose hope. Yeah. It makes sense, honestly. All right, who else should I do? Do freeze. Freeze. Oh my god.
Oh, you tell me who designed this delightfully absurd little game. To think that the absolute fate of Lord Frieza, the Emperor of the universe, would be subjected to something as pedestrian as utterly vulgar as a democratic vote. The very premise insulting. You are asking me to place my magnificent golden existence into the filthy, trembling hands of a billions of insignificant insects. Let us look at this blue button. It requires a pathetic, blind faith in the altruism of the weak, but I have conquered countless worlds. I have watched fireworks of dying planets from the bridge of my ship. I know the true nature of mortals. When faced with their own demise, they grovel, they weep, they sell out their own kin for a scrap of mercy. To believe that half of this miserable universe possesses the courage to risk themselves for the collective good is the height of delusion. And why, pray I tell you, will I want everyone to survive? The universe is so terribly cluttered as it is. Far too many annoying little pests buzzing about, styling themselves as heroes. Far too many monkeys. No, the choice is excruciatingly simple. I press the red button. I do not just press it. I press it with immense satisfaction. My survival is the only thing of consequence in this cosmos. Let the weak cling to their foolish ideals. Let them press their little blue buttons and wait for the salvation that will never come, doomed by the very cowardice of their peers. Now out of my sight, before I decide to demonstrate a much more direct method of population control.
Which one? Which one? I love how I still have the Jeffrey Epstein thing on my fucking computer. Okay, let me see here. Which one would... Which button would Socrates press?
I liked our anime one. What do you guys think, chat? I liked our anime one. It was great.
Okay. No, all right. We're gonna find out. And the AI, there's no way the AI can be wrong, right? And so, yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. Oh my god, Boomer Gold? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Like, sometimes the AI is good, sometimes it's not. Like, what do you want me to say? All right, let's see. Because I think he'd press the blue button. I do. I think he'd... I think every... I think... See, all right. Next. Okay. No. We gotta go even farther in this.
It picked red.
And which button?
You picked red.
Would Nietzsche? I don't know how to say Ty's fucking name. How do you type his name? Like I can't spell shit. How do you spell his name? Okay. I mean, dude, like the name's complicated, all right? It's not even my fault. Okay. Okay. All right, next. He'd press the blue button too, by the way. He would. What? No? No? Wait, really?
Oh, he presses the red button. Nietzsche picks
the
red.
blue button to price the... shit! Okay, all right, so we're half and half. Machiavelli? Okay, we don't need to look that one up. We don't need to look... That one's pretty easy. And, okay, Michael Jackson. Let's see, who else? Which button would Hitler press?
Nietzsche's individualist, of course he presses red.
It would also be the red button.
Yep.
Okay, it would be the red button. And all right, there it is. What, Aristotle? Okay, I bet Aristotle would push the blue button. Okay, what about Aristotle? Okay, all right, this is the last one. All right, and actually one more. Blue, yeah, of course. Blue button, there you go. Blue button again. All right, one more. Marcus Aurelius. What about... Type it out for me, guys. Just type it out. Just, I'm not even gonna try. just type it out for me. Marcus Rubius? No. Okay. Because I already know I'm not even gonna make a fool out of myself. He would also press the blue button. These are the architects of Western civilization. These are the founders of our culture. You have been infected with third worldism, and you don't even know it. This is so sad. It's so tremendously sad. That, like, you like, even Hitler? I'm not counting Hitler, okay? Remember he lost the war? Remember how that happened? Gotta do Trump? Okay, all right. You guys, I think it's gonna just say red because I don't want to do Trump because it's probably just gonna say that. Like, I'll do it just so people know. Which button would Trump press? I just feel like it would be politicized, right? But I think it will be red. I think it's going to say red, right? Wouldn't it be red? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so there it is, right? Yeah, ask about yourself. Okay, which one? Well, wait a minute. Well, okay, which one would Asmongold press? Let me ask, which one would Asmongold press?
I would have thought Asmon would have pressed red.
It's going to say
honestly.
I would press red. It will. It's going to say that. You're so wrong. Yeah, no, it's definitely going to say this. Watch it. Says, like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, who is this guy? Like, Asmongold, like, what is, this is like a fucking... Is this wrong? Like, what is this? Refining survival strategy?
Anyone who presses blue is literally insane.
Oh, no.
That's what I think, though.
Asmongold would press the red button without a moment's hesitation, and he'd probably...
I mean, to be fair, I'm a little bit surprised that he would pick blue, to be honest. It's a little bit surprising.
Spend the next 20 minutes on stream explaining why anyone who pressed blue is literally insane. His choice wouldn't be based on malice, but on a blend of cynical realism, common sense, logic, and a deep distrust of the collective intelligence of the herd. Here's how he would break it down. Wow. Asmongold often views world problems like game mechanics. He would immediately see the red button as the strictly dominant strategy. Distrust of the herd, the loophole logic, radical honesty. Yes, he would mock the fake virtue of the people that press blue. And, oh my fucking god. So, Jesus, man, the high-minded duty and the self-reliant survival, which I have logic... Yes, I would push the blue button. I would. If it was our society, I would push the blue button. Read the loophole. Okay. What does it say?
Guys, I just looked it up for Agnes Tachyon, and she would pick red. Okay, do all of the just show the results. No need. But at least be Agnes Tachyon picks red. W Tachyon, yeah.
He loves pointing out when a situation is solved just by reading the rules. Okay, everybody checks in. Since everyone pressed red, everyone survives. Do they conclude that red's superior humanitarian choice because it removes the risk of death entirely, so long as everyone's smart enough to be selfish? Well, they're not. They're not. Because, you know, like, think about how many women we have, right, for example. And I'm sure, I mean, those are all going to be blue button pressers for sure. And so, like, that's at least half of them pressing blue. And so, like, I mean, really, you don't really need to worry about this at all because, like, you know, yeah, 50% of the population already pressing blue to begin with. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal at all. You lost the plot with this scenario. But why is it, okay, so why is it that I've lost the plot, but every architect of Western civilization agrees with me?
You know, I don't know if they would, though. Like, actually. Like, it's, I mean, especially, I guess the Founding Fathers, I don't think they would. Like, if they actually debated it out, I think, like, it would be a knee-jerk reaction for them to pick blue. I think they would definitely think about it.
Isn't that an interesting, you know, coincidence? It's
okay, guys, here you go. Here's the list. Here's a list, chat, from Uma Musume Pretty Derby. Gold Ship picks blue. Haruura picks blue. Vodka picks blue. Daiwa Scarlet picks blue. Sakura Bakshin O picks blue. King Halo picks blue. Grass Wonder picks blue. Major Orion picks blue. Nice Nature picks blue. Machikane Fukitaro picks blue. Agnes Tachyon picks red. My goat. I know, my goat. Damn. That's so crazy. Actually, why don't we ask you what Leaflit would pick? What would the VTuber Leaflit pick, and what would she say? All right, let's see. Okay, this is what Leaflit would say according to the AI. This is I had it like specifically research all, like everything, like my posts and stuff. So here's what it would say. What would the VTuber Leaflit pick, and what would she say? Red button, obviously, not even a question. I'd slam the red one so fast that my ahoge would spin. Look, I love people. My whole thing is building communities, running massive TTRPG campaigns, hundreds of adventures, making friends, reaching for the stars, and the whole stellar humanist idol stick. I stream with my mom, I make games, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh yeah, I stream with my mom, I make games, I meme for a living because memes are the DNA of the soul. I want humanity to win, I really do, but I'm not stupid. This is the biggest, most anonymous, biggest high stakes coordination game in history. No chat, no emotes, no let's go team energy, just billions of random people, most of whom I already know from my streams and commentary are, let's be real, kind of cooked, fearful, short-sighted, tribal, or just plain selfish. Dude, this is actually real. Hold on, I'm not making this up, guys. This is actually what the AI said. This is actually what the AI said, guys. I am not making it up right. This is the biggest, most anonymous, highest stakes coordination game in history. No chat, no emotes, no let's go team energy. Billions of random humans, most of whom I already know from my streams and commentary are cooked. Fearful, short-sighted, tribal, and just plain selfish, and the second real risk shows up. I've watched human nature up close, school indoctrination, online drama, game design incentives. I used to be a wide-eyed libertarian dreamer. Then I grew up and realized absolute freedom and blind trust both ignore the same ugly truth. People default to saving their own asses when it actually matters. Blue is the pretty anime speech option. Believe in the heart of the cards. Everyone will choose hope. Sure. Yeah, sure. In my guild, maybe. In my chat, maybe. In the entire world, Lomao, less than 50% blue is the expected outcome. I'm not gambling my continued existence on the majority suddenly growing spines they've never shown before. Red guarantees I keep going. I keep world building. I keep streaming. I keep cooking stupid recipes, ranting about whatever fresh nonsense in the timelines already cooked up today, and supporting the actual humans and non-humans who do try to show up, the ones that matter. There's a little bit more. If somehow the world surprises me and enough people pick blue, great. Everyone lives. Data gathered. I get to laugh about how wrong I was while we all sail on to the next dumb adventure together. Win-win. But I'm not betting the slime core on it. Red, no hesitation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have campaigns to run. Humanity is gonna do what it does, and I'll be here afterwards, still standing. Oh yo, it even said oh yo at the end. What the fuck is this? How does it know? How does it know? You want to know why it knows? You want to know why it knows about me so hard, by the way? It's because I made all of my videos on YouTube. I made them accessible to AI. I let the AI actually scrape all of my videos and like all of my content. So that's why it knows like a lot about me. You can choose that. Yeah, there's an option. It's actually really good for search. It gets you like really boosted in the search and stuff. It's pretty good to do. If you're a content creator, it's a good idea. Yeah. It's on YouTube. It's under YouTube preferences, I believe. It spelled human with 2 O's. It did. That was hysterical, by the way. I know. Anyway, let's move on from this one. Let's go back to this video. We're kind of running out of time here, so.
Is that there is a thought experiment currently going around on the internet, which would imply that you are a terrible person if you don't do so. Because, I mean, hey, don't you know that it's easier to get 50% of people to do something than 100% of people? So clearly, you need to grab that pacifier, stick it in your mouth, and get to it to show the world what a good little altruistic sap you are. This all may sound absurd, but as some of you who are already key—
Isn't that crazy, though, how accurate that was? Like, I'm actually shocked, because, like, I actually would say that. Like, all of those things I actually believe. So that's actually kind of crazy that it got it like so perfectly.
Into the current online discussion I am alluding to here, what I just gave is an example of the red button, blue button paradox, where 2 buttons are presented to you. If you press the red button, nothing happens. But if you press the blue button, you will die. Unless, of course, at least 50% of the people who are presented with this question also choose to press the blue button, in which case, nobody dies. It's a thought experiment to test the limits of altruism. Should you put your life on the line for the sake of some people who may make a really bad decision? And so in this video, I'm going to point out what just about everybody is getting wrong with this experiment. But first off, to help fund this video, and also because I think it would be hilarious, I'm going to be temporarily putting the red and blue Fumo hats on my merch store on.
You know I have the red one, right? I do. I have the red one.
Sale. Yep, that's right. You can also show which button you'd want to press by buying one of my hats, while also supporting me in my endeavor to continue making content like this. And they are actually pretty darn good quality hats. The eyes on them are embroidered the same way a real Fumo is. So a link to that will be in the description below, or you can use this QR code. But anyway, back on topic. The red button versus blue button question. Let me take you back a bit and just give you the basic history of what's really going on here. because technically questions like these have actually been getting asked since the dawn of human civilization, far predating the internet, going all the way back to philosophers like Aristotle, and the question of whether or not it's worth it to take a personal risk for greater collective flourishing. And it's the thing people have struggled with throughout the ages. Do you take a personal risk in the action of trusting others, not knowing whether or not they will betray you? And so what we're seeing now on the internet is just another incarnation of this. On X from Tim Urban, and the question is this: everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. If more than 50% of the people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% of people press the blue button, only people who press the red button survive. Which button would you press? And then, of course, Mr. Beast has to step in and be an absolute mad lad and repost the question for an additional 41 million views.
Nice.
Hence why the internet has been completely losing their minds over this over the past 2 weeks. With hundreds of thousands of people giving their little take on why the red button is the correct choice or why the blue button is the correct choice. And some of those reasons are good, but a lot of them kind of aren't. And a lot of people are also misunderstanding this question to mean something that it really doesn't mean. And of course, just about everybody missed the real problem with it, which I will get into towards the end of this video. For now, I'd just like to point out the most common problem, and we can go from there. And this first issue is people blaming the other side. Red buttoners blaming blue buttoners, and blue buttoners blaming red buttoners. The basic arguments go like this. From the red buttoner side, this just comes down to pointing out the fact that nobody actually has to press the blue button. If 100% of people just press the red button, then well, nothing happens. It's as if the game never occurred. And therefore, people only die if people press blue. And thus, blue button pressers are dumb. The basic argument is that they just don't understand game theory, and they're making a much ado about nothing. Or in other words, the question can be simplified as blue button might die, red button definitely won't die.
Yep.
And so it's not just from an individualist standpoint of saving your own skin that you'd want to press the red button, but it's also important to point out that anybody who presses the blue button would ultimately be at fault for pressing the blue button. And then from the blue button side, it's basically just them saying that anybody who would press the red button is evil, because they don't care about others. You see, the basic argument from the blue button side is, yes, okay, it's true that if 100% of people press the red button, then everyone lives. But the thing is, that's also a completely unrealistic way to look at it. Because one unfortunate thing about humanity is that no matter how obvious it is what the correct path should be, everyone will not just. When people are given a question, this is a simple binary question between two options, there's going to be a sizable chunk of the population, usually at least 10% or so, who is just going to kind of press the buttons at random. And even a higher percentage really just won't even understand the question entirely. And of course, in this case, a lot of people will press the blue button because they think it's the nicer option. It has that kind of altruistic bend to it, whereby pressing the blue button, you are putting your own life on the line in order to rescue the people who accidentally pressed the wrong button. Thus, interestingly enough, making the blue button a little bit more popular. As I said earlier, it is true that it is easier to get 50% of the population to do something.
Am I an anime villain? Because I said what Frieza said, kind of. I was kind of like, well, you know, if you're dumb enough, listen, if you're dumb enough to press blue, then Rip Bozo. Right? Like, Rip Bozo, like, good for democracy, because, like, you're not voting anymore. Right? Like, I don't...
Thing, rather than getting 100% of the population to do something. And so while it's true the blue button is the might die button, it is also, to some degree, the nobody has to die button as well, which is part of...
You know what's funny is I made a bot. It's like, Malcolm made, like, a bot that was, like... It was a bot for checking, like, which... Like, you could input like a content creator, and then it would output like a report on which anime character they're the most like. And he ran it for me, and then I ran a similar one for myself, and I got the same character. It said it was Rimuru. That I would be the most like Rimuru, and then the second one was Shiro from Log Horizon, which is like. They're both, like, nice villains, kind of. You know, like Rimuru is considered, like, a villain in, like, the world, but then, like, he's not evil, really, right? I feel sort of like that matches pretty well.
Why many call this thought experiment a bit of a paradox. Because technically people are only being put in danger by the fact that they are pressing the blue button. But you can also argue that pressing the blue button...
Rimuru isn't a villain? No, but everyone thinks he's a villain, right?
to make sense to save them. But then that also just adds more people to the pile of the blue button pressers who are effectively risking their own demise for basically no reason, because again, the red buttoners are correct that technically if you press the red button, nothing happens to you and everybody could just press that button. And so thus a lot of people are arguing that the blue button is the right thing to do and pressing the red button is thus the murder button, because you are trying to murder the portion of the population that just presses the wrong button, which then paradoxically makes it seem like the correct.
That's what I mean. It's like a big moral grandstand. Like picking the blue button is a moral flex. That's all it is. It's like, I care more about people than you do.
Button in their eyes. And what's interesting here is that both sides are actually kind of wrong. It is not the red buttoner's fault. The red button is not the murder button. And likewise, saying that the blue button is the stupid button is a bit of an oversimplification. Yes, technically it is also kind of the stupid button, but it's also the save everybody who fell down the pit button. And that's the basic argument that the blue team will give. That the red button isn't actually a nothing happens button. Rather, the red button is actually saying that you're okay with some people dying so long as you save your own skin. Because a significant portion of the population all dying, absolutely.
I'd agree with that analysis that like not everybody who picks the blue button is dumb. They're just morally grandstanding, basically. And I guess it is true too that they're trying to save everybody. I guess in that case I would think it was dumb, to be honest. Yeah, I would think that part is dumb. I don't know. It's either you're dumb or it's moral grandstanding, at least in my opinion. I don't know. We'll see more what Mentis has to say.
Is something happening. For example, say red won 70% to 30%. 30% of the population of Earth dying would be an absolute economic catastrophe, especially in first world countries where I would imagine that most people would actually be more likely to press blue. Many first world countries are already facing a birth rate crisis.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. You'd lose a lot more people in first... Yeah. I still would never pick blue, though. I would still never pick blue, but that would be unfortunate. Yeah.
And so
I would never pick blue.
Random death, especially since a lot of the people who would press the blue button would be kids again, would definitely not be a good thing. Which means even from an individualist standpoint, there actually is some risk tied to the red button from a purely consequentialist perspective. And then of course there's the issue of whether or not someone you care about might press the blue button. Simply imagine someone you love dying as a result of this, and the logic behind the blue button becomes obvious. For example, if it was just between you and your family, you probably know that the children in your family might easily accidentally press the blue button, and of course there's your aunt who will think that it's the nice button. So even if you would originally obviously want to choose the red button, there are arguments that can be made under a very high trust scenario, such as again within your family, to press the blue button. But that still doesn't mean that the red buttoners are at fault either. Neither party is at fault. And the reason why comes down to one simple word: consent. Because one question that a few people ask but wasn't really fully explored in this thought experiment is, what if you just don't press any of the buttons? Which then just brings a lot of people going, oh no, you can't do that. You gotta press one of
I
the...
I freaking love this. Mentis is so libertarian. I love it.
buttons? Okay, well, why? Why do you have to press the button? Why do the red buttoners need to press the red button for nothing to happen? Shouldn't walking away and refusing to play the game also mean that nothing happens? Because the thing is, if you can walk away from this scenario and refuse to press any of the buttons, then that automatically just becomes the actual obviously correct choice. If you...
Yeah, but I mean, for the sake of the argument, there's like... I feel like that's against the spirit of the game, right?
If you were actually presented with this game, and you had the option to just refuse to play the game, then yes, you could technically argue that the red button is the murder button, because you could alternatively just choose to not play, and thus you're not adding anything to the red button hat that would make it harder for the blue buttoners to reach 50%. And the same thing is true for the blue button.
I mean, we're assuming that everyone has to press the button for the...
The only reason to play the game is if you suspect that some people decided to play and press the red button for the hell of it. But ultimately, the smart choice would be to just not play the game. And if you don't have that choice, then the real person who is at fault for all of the deaths in case blue doesn't reach 50% is not the red buttoners or really the blue buttoners. It's the person forcing you to play this game. Because of course, realistically, if this were to actually happen in...
True! It's all Mr. Beast's fault, right guys? That's... It's all Mr. Beast's fault. Get him!
real life, it probably would be some weird kind of test from an alien race that have come to exterminate Earth or something, but have decided to first force us to play this kind of sick, twisted game that they just came up with. Which means the fault for all of these deaths, in the event that the blue buttoners lost it, well, that fault would actually lie on the aliens, not the red button pressers.
Yeah,
because if you don't have the option to consent to playing this death game, then the aggressors who are causing the deaths are in fact
those illegal aliens, guys. Damn it. Fuck them.
the people who are taking away that ability to consent. And this is why I'm personally a bit more on the red button side. You can never say that somebody is required to put their life on the line for somebody else if they are not the one who caused them to be in a predicament where their life is in danger in the first place. For example, if you witness a thief stealing a girl's purse or something like that, sure, you can argue that it is noble to save that woman from the thief, but you cannot say that it's your fault that she's getting stolen from. The fault is very much on the thief. And thus the question of whether or not to step in and help her must entirely...
And by the way, this is why Freerin would pick blue. Do you see why now? She would pick blue because of Himmel.
Be one's own choice. To say that someone is required to do that is actually where you kind of run into the problem of altruism, which a lot of people misunderstand as being the same thing as goodwill. Goodwill is saying that it is good to help others if you can by your own will, whereas altruism is more of saying that you have to help others or else you are bad. The difference is entitlement, and this has wide-ranging consequences when you shape society around this misunderstanding, because altruism is where you get problems between the welfare state and private charity. Private charity is goodwill because people can consent to it.
I love that video. That's such a good video. The Fraternal Societies video.
But under the welfare state, everybody is being forced to participate in the welfare scheme. You don't have an option to opt out of those taxes going to these programs. And thus altruism is actually just a form of slavery that has been reworded to make it sound like goodwill, when in reality it is just communist nonsense that actually prevents true goodwill from existing.
Everything is the communist fault, right, guys? It's so simple.
Another bad argument that I see is coming up a lot, this one particularly just comes from the blue button side, is people pointing out, hey, look, the blue buttoners won the vote, therefore the blue button is the correct choice. Now, aside from that just being kind of a silly bandwagon fallacy at absolute best, it's also ignoring kind of the obvious issue of stated preference versus revealed preference. Because of course, in the thought experiment as—
Dude, Drew, by the way, thank you for the 5,000 bits, man. Thank you, that's a lot. Thank you, dude. Gotta get going, Leaf, but this was fun. Definitely crazy how much of the AI the AI was able to put together. I know, it's really crazy, isn't it? Even if it's publicly available info. Have a good night. Night, Drew. And thank you, Nick Hedoniak, for the sub as well. Thank you so much.
People are voting on X, the thing is, it's just a thought experiment. It's not actually happening. Obviously, nobody's life was actually on the line here in Mr. Beast's little game. Or at least we hope that he didn't have a—
I heard that there was an anime convention that was doing a bunch of thought experiments as well.
way of doing that. I mean, for who knows, knowing Mr. Beast, maybe he had some kind of secret biolab and he was actually planning to do it. Probably not. Very, very low chance. I mean, less than 1% chance. But you can't exactly say that it's zero. But of course, I'm joking here. As far as everybody knew, this wasn't actually a real thing that was actually happening. And so thus the vote is not whether or not people would actually press the red button or actually press the blue button, but rather the vote is more about what people are willing to say that they would do, or at least tell themselves that they would do. Because of course, it's disconnected from any kind of real consequence.
Yeah.
Which means that this really is susceptible to the psychological phenomenon where there's a difference between what people say they would do and what they will actually do once consequences actually do manifest.
That is a really good point.
This is most obviously shown in the dating scene, because it's easy to say that you want a nice partner, but a lot of times when given the choice between the nice guy or the tall and wealthy guy on actual dating apps as shown through their revealed preferences, a lot of them just tend to go for the wealth instead.
Yep.
And so there's a disconnect between what it feels good to say and what one will actually do when in a situation where there's actual
This is a really good video. I really like this video a
consequences
lot.
for their actions. But then that just brings us to the question,
Well done,
okay, well,
Mentis.
how do we know that it's revealed preference? And there's a pretty good reason to suspect that that's the case when it comes to the red-blue button question. And the reason why is because when faced with an actual specific scenario outside of just a very simple red or blue button, the red button almost always ends up winning, actually. So for example, one person asks, okay, there's a wood chipper, and you can either choose to jump into it or choose not to jump into the wood chipper. But the wood chipper has a fault. A design flaw where if more than 50% of humanity jumps in, then the wood chipper will break and everyone will survive.
Yep.
But if less than 50% of the population does it, then everybody in the wood chipper dies. What would you do? Would you jump into the wood chipper? And then all of a sudden people start selecting that no, they wouldn't jump into the wood chipper, even though this is effectively the same question as the red button, blue button question. Or another one was from this guy. A train is coming down a track. Everyone on Earth has the choice to either tie themselves to the track or to not tie themselves to the track. If more than 50% of the people choose to tie themselves down to the train track as the train is coming, then the train will turn around and won't run anybody over. Do you tie yourself to the track or not? And everyone chooses no. Or here's one that really puts it down. Everyone on Earth is given an opportunity to ingest a cyanide pill. The only way to get the antidote is if more than 50% of people choose to ingest the cyanide pill. Do you ingest the cyanide pill or do you not? Yeah. And people overwhelmingly vote no. You see, there's something about a red button and a blue button in just kind of a room with you and nothing else that psychologically disconnects people from the reality of their own death. And so then you ask them to imagine a scenario that is effectively the exact same question, but reworded in a way to actually imagine yourself doing the thing that causes your death in a more specific fashion. Like,
and this is why I would press the red button.
say ingesting a cyanide pill, then all of a sudden people actually think about it a bit more and realize what it is they're actually doing. And then the blue buttoners lose. But again, it's all just an online poll with no real consequences. The truth is, we don't actually really know what the real numbers would be. Or as this post points out, the problem with the blue button. Don't make me tap the sign. An online poll with no actual risk obviously doesn't represent how people would behave in a real life or death situation. It's very, very easy to say that you will be the altruistic hero, to say that you would put your life in harm's way. But there's a very big difference between
there's a societal benefit to doing it. Again, this is why I said that they're virtue signaling, right? This is all like a look at me, I'm such a good person. That's all it is.
Doing that and just virtue signaling on the internet. And so there's a very big difference between telling others, or really just even trying to tell yourself, that you would totally jump into raging waters during a flash flood.
This is exactly the same, by the way, as those people that go like, oh, we should like, you know, we need to have more illegal people because we need to house them, right? People need to house them, right? And then they're like, okay, here's an illegal, like, can you sign this? We're gonna like bring some illegals to your place and they're gonna live in your house. They're like, oh no, not in my house. It's exactly like that.
Save a puppy, but there's a very big difference between saying that and actually doing that when push comes to shove. Or in other words, it's much easier to imagine oneself as the hero than it is to actually be a hero. And then another similar problem is just the question of public trust and who you're playing this game with. As I mentioned earlier, there is one scenario where I personally would probably favor the blue button over the red button, and that's when I'm playing the game, but only with a pool of people that make up my own family. See, then in that case, it does make sense, and it's not just because they're family, but because I know my family. Many of them are left-leaning liberals, actually. I'm actually kind of the weirdo out here being a right-wing libertarian. I know that most of them actually probably would go for the blue button, and plus I don't really want to see any of the kids die. And so I might as well press it, having that knowledge, because I know it's not that big of a risk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, it's because I know them. But what if you don't really know who you're playing against? For example, I did see a lot of people on the more authoritarian right saying that they would press the blue button because it's correct for society, yada yada yada. I have a very simple question for all of them. Would you still press the blue button if the population you were playing this death game with was Somalia? Now, Somalia, of course, is well known as being an extremely low-trust society, but more than that, it's also a very low IQ society and a very uneducated society. It is a country that is well known as being full of people who are willing to murder you for just a simple $1. That's the
easiest red button and press of my life.
Harsh way of putting it, but that's reality. It's regularly ranked as one of the worst countries to live in. If you had to play the ultimate death gamble against Somalia, then the correct answer would obviously be to smash that red button.
Wait, hold on though, why is Somalia so bad? It has like a lot of ocean. I don't get it. Like they look how much ocean they have. That's a crazy amount of ocean. It's a damn fucking peninsula at the end.
ultimate death gamble against Somalia, then the correct answer would obviously be to smash that red button as fast as you possibly can. And I almost guarantee that anybody who argued for the blue button would also smash that red button pretty quick if they were playing against Somalia as well. Because in this specific scenario, the red button is almost guaranteed to win. The blue button effectively becomes a suicide button. But then that brings us to another question. If the red button would almost certainly win in a terrible country, then doesn't that mean that in a global playing of the red button, blue button game, that the people left over in a red button society would mostly be comprised of worse people? Because the issue here is that it's a bit of a midwit meme, but it's a midwit meme slightly more towards the blue buttoners' favor. There are very high IQ reasons to press the red button, with the big one being, as I mentioned earlier, the very obvious difference between revealed and stated preference. I personally would be a red button pusher simply because I understand that difference, and I understand that red would almost certainly win if this was a real thing. I mean, the fact that it's even close at all in an online poll with no real consequences should
I feel like if you think about it that way, where people are like, well, if this happens and then all the blue, it's going to be full of red button, of the red button people, then it's like, if you're like if you're a good person, like, of a good culture that is a red button pusher, I feel like you're even more, hold on, if you're even more obligated to press the red button, because then you're the only, you and the other people that would press the red button in like a more, a first world society, you would be like, humanity rests on your shoulders. So it's like even more moral, even more, what do you call it? Moral duty to do it.
To be a dead giveaway if this
was... so like it's actually the opposite of the argument, because the arguments I heard of like, oh well, if you press the red button, it's gonna be, do I want to live in a world full of red button pressers when it's all a bunch of scoundrels and stuff? It's like, well, you have a duty to continue humanity by pressing the red button as a person that actually understands the meaning of that. And like, sure, the world is going to be full of the cheat people, and then all of the quote unquote nice guys are going to all like, isekai themselves, but like it becomes your duty to carry the torch at that point.
An actual real thing. I can say with pretty high level of confidence that...
Why are they assuming red button pushers are evil people? Because the red button people would not only include the people who pick it for moral reasons, it would also include the people that just want to save themselves. Correct? Like, most of Somalia would pick it, right? For no reason other than to protect themselves. There's like no other reason, right? Just culturally. And you can see this by a lot of the scamming that goes on, right?
The blue button is almost certainly a suicide button. But at the same time, I can understand the final argument for the blue buttoners, which is just that they don't want to live in a world with people who...
Saving yourself isn't immoral, though. No, the point is the people that are willing to Okay, let me rephrase this, okay? The people who are willing to sacrifice themselves for other people are all gonna die. Do you see what I mean? They're all fucking dead in this world. So then it's gonna be the people who are protective of their own families. It's gonna be even more of a moral charge to press the red button, because then you have to continue humanity after all of the blue button people die. Does that make more sense if I put it that way?
Mostly final argument for the blue buttoners, which is just that they don't want to live in a world with people who mostly press the red button.
Yeah, see, this is what I meant.
Because sure, you're going to have some high IQ people on the red button pressers. For example, well-read academic libertarians, and those of us who actually understand game theory, and also those of us who understand that the red button is absolutely winning in a real scenario, let's be honest here. But then, of course, there's also the low-trust third-worlders who would all press the red button.
Yeah, it becomes even more your moral duty to uphold society and civilization.
Thinking about...
Because otherwise it sets us back hundreds of years if we don't do it.
it any further than their own life. They wouldn't even consider any of the philosophy I've gone over in this video at all. They just press the red button. While meanwhile, you have a lot of people mistakenly pressing the blue button, but then also a lot of very well-meaning people pressing the blue button. And ultimately, the world would probably be a worse place. And this is where we get to the thing that just about everybody missed. The big reveal that I teased at the beginning of the video. And ultimately, it has to do with knowledge. You see, the problem here, as some people have pointed out, is that this is really just effectively the prisoner's dilemma, where it is logical to actually choose the illogical choice, not because it's logical, but simply because you don't know what the other prisoner is going to choose. But then in the hypothetical scenario where you do know, where you do have some kind of magical omniscient powers, where you know what other people are going to choose, then all of a sudden there's a very obvious correct answer to the red blue button question. For example, if we go back to the scenario where it's aliens that are forcing us to all choose between the red and blue button, and it just turns out that you are the last person on the planet to step into the red and blue button booth, and the aliens telepathically inform you that 80% of the population has pressed the red button, which button are you going to pick? Well, I mean, if you know that you're the last person, and that 80% of the population has already chosen to press the red button, then well, obviously the correct choice is to just press the red button. There's no point in just dying for nothing. Your vote isn't going to have any change on the outcome. You know that the red button has already won, and so you might as well just save yourself at that point. And then, of course, you can imagine the same thing being true in the blue button scenario.
It's a tie,
if, again, you are the last person to enter the booth, and the aliens telepathically inform you that you are the last person in the booth, and that you are also the tie-breaking vote, well then, obviously the correct button to press would be the blue button. Because you know you're not going to die, because you are the tie-breaking vote, and so you might as well just choose to save 50% of humanity. There's no downside there. But this is all simply because, again, you have been given omniscient power. In this hypothetical scenario. But the thing is, it's actually a bit more than that, because if we disconnect this from
it's true. If in that case, if the temptation would be to pick red anyway, but if you pick red, it does set back humanity quite a bit, because you're gonna lose a lot of, you're gonna lose more people in civilized society than you are gonna lose in third world society. It's actually true. So it actually does. It is actually against. Now that I think about it more, it's actually against my goals to press red there. Unfortunately, the more that I think about it,
the context and look at it more from the standpoint of
I was wrong. I was wrong in my initial analysis of that.
Epistemology. One issue with knowledge and what we know is true is that we humans are not psychic, and so you don't actually know what other people want. So when faced with choices for other people, how could you possibly know what correct knowledge could be when you are not them? Wow, gee, it's almost as if this entire scenario is accidentally just proof, once again, that democracy kinda sucks. Yep, that's right. That is the thing that everybody missed. What this entire thought experiment actually does is it's just one more piece of proof that democracy is a very flawed system.
True.
And one of the big issues with democracy is that it is just a soft version of socialism, and because it is a soft version of socialism, it's actually susceptible to some of the same flaws as socialism, and this just so happens to be one of them. Much like the knowledge problem haunts socialist economic policy in general, it also haunts democracy. And so just like people were repackaging the red-blue question in things like a meat grinder or a suicide pill that magically generates the antidote and enough people take the pill, you can also very well reword this thought experiment in the context of democracy. For example, the very common framework of voting between two politicians for some high office. We can just say that it's for president or for prime minister or whatever, but really it could be any position in any office, just some kind of leadership position, could even be mayor, whatever, doesn't matter. Now, in this scenario, one of the politicians promises to basically do almost nothing and reduce the size and scope of the government, whereas the alternative politician, the other guy, promises that doomsday will occur unless we implement new socialist policies where we import infinity Somalians and put them on infinity welfare. No need for them to work or anything like that. They just come here and they get free stuff, all on net taxpayer dime. And if we don't do it, then we are perpetuating imperialism or colonialism or something. And so we just gotta do.
Why? I don't like that country.
do it, because we just do. Doomsday will occur. Late stage capitalism. And of course, at first, this might not seem like it's a scenario that exactly fits the bill, because at least on the surface, it's not quite the same thing as, say, a more direct comparison or a direct hypothetical, like voting for a red pill or a blue pill or something, and everybody who votes to take the blue pill will die because they only get the antidote if they get 50% of the vote or more or something like that. It's not exactly the same thing here. We're just talking about economic policy. And I think that's what really tricks people, because yes, that's true, it may not seem like the same thing on the surface. The issue is it has kind of the same consequences and the same flaws and reasoning behind it, as well as the same, again, knowledge problem. Because let's say either United States or some countries in Europe decide to have a pact where they're just going to do it. They're going to import the entire population of Somalia, and then they're just going to put them on, let's say, $5,000 of UBI paid for by the taxpayer each month or something like that. And the immediate question, just aside from the economic issues with doing that, of forcing people to pay for others, aside from just the suicidal empathy issue there, you also have to ask yourself, okay, what about the Somalians? What do they think? Do you even know how these people you're importing and giving infinity welfare to are going to think about this predicament? Are they going to be grateful to you for it? Or are they going to view you as complete foolish saps and take advantage of you for it? And so we quickly see the same silly risk that is involved with the blue.
They're going to come over here and leer and become doctors and engineers. Everyone knows that.
Button in this hypothetical policy. You don't actually know what other people are going to do, and so you don't actually know if this is going to pay off. And then, of course, there's the obvious question of who is responsible for the consequences if it doesn't pay off. Ultimately, it's going to be a lot of the people who voted against this policy, who did not vote to give infinity welfare to infinity people. But they're going to pay the consequences anyway, which actually in many ways makes democracy even worse in this scenario. Because at least in the red button, blue button hypothetical thought experiment, it's mostly just the blue buttoners who are suffering the consequences of their own silly choice. But under democracy, when it quote-unquote wins, everybody kind of gets forced to go along with the suicidal empathy as well. Which then immediately brings you to the question, okay, wouldn't a better immigration policy be just not having welfare for them? So that way the immigrants who come over are the ones who actually have something to offer. But instead we're stuck with a system where you can effectively vote for other people's resources to be spent in a certain way. But how do you know that that's the way that those resources really should be spent? And so then people say, oh, well, it's the will of the people. That's the point of democracy. Democracy solves the knowledge problem by discovering the will of the people. But that's an issue, because the thing is, there is no will of the people. That is actually an example of something I went over recently, the collectivist fallacy. Quote unquote, the people are not a concretely real thing. Democracy can never reveal what quote unquote the people want, because quote unquote the people are in fact just billions of individuals who all want different things, and their preference does not change based on the outcome of the vote, at least assuming they are a player character and not an NPC. Yep. And so thus the act of voting is not to determine the will of the people, but rather it is an act where one claims that they know what others want better than they do, which is an absurdity, because obviously you don't actually know what other people want more than they know what they desire. Because of course there is no mind of quote unquote the people, because that's not a real concrete thing. It's an abstract concept we made up in order to make it easier to understand the large numbers of minds out there that exist. But that doesn't change the fact that only those minds are what actually exists. There is no collective mind, and thus democracy cannot determine what that collective mind is. But it tries to anyway, hence why we call democracy often a soft version of socialism. It's not as bad as direct communism, but it does still suffer from the collectivist fallacy. And another similar issue that it has to the red button, blue button scenario is of course stated and revealed preference as well. What people say they want on a ballot box doesn't necessarily reveal what they really think is the best idea, because much in the same way it disconnects people from any hint of responsibility. For instance, let's imagine a more simple scenario, one that's a little bit less destructive of a scenario. Let's say a mayor holds a vote for people on whether they want to build an opera house in the city or to build a new sports stadium. And the immediate issue you run into here is, are the people who are voting for this actually going to pay for either of them? Are the people who vote for a sports stadium actually going to pay for tickets to go see the game? And are the people who are going to vote for the opera house, are they actually going to pay for tickets? And so the mayor says, well, no matter, either one will be free admission. But of course, it's not actually free. It's just going to be paid for by the taxpayer in that instance. But then how do we actually know if those resources are being spent efficiently? Versus the alternative scenario where both are built using private investment and both charge ticket prices. And they survive or fail based on whether or not people are actually willing to spend their resources on them, aka revealed preference. And that's what a lot lot of people missed with this red button, blue button question. It's effectively just taking a vote on something and betting on whether or not other people are going to vote a certain way. And the entire reason it's a paradox in the first place comes down to the fact that we don't have magic knowledge and we don't actually know what people are going to do. We can make a guess based on the reasons I've just gone over in this video, but you don't actually know which one's best. You can definitely say that the red button is better as an individual, but in the long run, in the time preference world, which one's actually better does in fact depend on what other people are going to do either way. And at the root of the problem, the thing that people are just kind of missing is that we've kind of forgotten that altruism isn't really that great of a thing. It should not be something that you force people into doing. It is not the same thing as goodwill. And so it is not the red buttoners who are lay evil, and it's not even really the blue buttoners being lay stupid, but rather it is the very nature of forcing people into this kind of vote in the first place, and people not noticing that this is actually just proof that democracy isn't exactly what it's all cracked up to be. That is the true problem. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. And also, you can support my content on Ko-Fi, Subscribestar,
as Mentis owns. I need to watch his older
or
stuff.
again by buying some merch. And yes, the Fumo Blue and Fumo Red hats are on sale. You should just kind of forget the whole red button, blue button thing and buy whichever one you want. But for now, that is all. Thanks for watching. Till next time.
Yeah, I love Mentis' content. It's like probably one of my favorites. It's like up there with Basecamp for me, for like kind of Warren and Basecamp. Mentis is great. I'll link you guys a video. Actually, I'll link you the channel. So you guys can see more of Mentis' stuff here.
I'm